Hey guys, welcome along to Botty, the Star Trek Lovers podcast. It has been far too long since I uploaded an episode to the channel. I was getting into a good way of going with the uploads on here, and then I got an unexpected boost on my YouTube vlogging channel, Here's Rodder's Vlogs. So the head went all together, try to keep that momentum going, so I spent a heck of a lot of time on there making videos for that, and ended up getting absolutely nothing done as far as the podcasts go. I've got 3 podcasts here, and 2 of them have suffered badly. This been one of them, so apologies if you have been listening to the episodes on here. But we're back now. I'm going to try to upload at a more realistic upload schedule. The plan originally was, and I was just talking about it on the vlog channel tonight and a new episode over there, is that you do not need to be perfect in the stuff that you do. You know, it's nice to have some sort of level of professionalism to your stuff, but you know, if you're going to the extent where you're absolutely getting nothing done because of the fact that you're trying to be so flippin', so much of a perfectionist about things, it's just, as you see, if you've seen for yourself, this channel has suffered badly because of that. So it's not going to happen anymore. We're going to get the stuff out there, and we're going to do it as best as we can and as often as we can. So I'm thinking realistically, I'm going to be uploading podcasts to sceammeupbotty on perhaps a Tuesday and a Thursday, twice a week, which is plenty for a podcast. And there's a heck of a lot of Star Trek based stuff that we're going to be talking about, so this podcast is going to go for forever basically. And yes, I'll probably be dead before we get through everything Star Trek related. But this is Star Trek First Contact, and this episode was released in 1996, directed by Jonathan Frakes, of course Riker himself in the directing chair. And to the best of my knowledge, there was a couple of other directors that turned the project down previous to him getting the job. This was his first time directing, and you know, they did want somebody in there that knew Star Trek, and of course Jonathan Frakes knows Star Trek. The cast on here is all fantastic. Of course, we've got all the regulars back: Patrick Stewart, Jonathan Frakes, Brent Spinner, LeVar Burton, Michael Dorn, Gates McFadden, Marina Sirtis, Alfred Woodward is in here as well. James Cromwell, absolute flipping legend in this movie, and Alice Krieg is perfect as the Borg Queen. I absolutely love this movie. It had a budget of $45 million, and at the box office it made $146 million. This is easily the best Star Trek movie with the Next Generation cast on here. You know, I genuinely believe that it's going to be really hard to beat the Wrath of Khan when it comes to Star Trek movies, but this comes in a very close second place whenever you put all the movies together. Absolutely fantastic, this film. Basically the plot of the movie is 24th century. Captain Picard awakens from a nightmare. That's how the film opens, in which he's relived his assimilation by the Borg 6 years previously. He's contacted by Admiral Hayes, who informs him a new Borg threat is just about to hit Earth, and Picard's orders are for him and the new Enterprise, which absolutely looks fantastic. Really, really good design for Enterprise here. But again, for my money, the Enterprise from Wrath of Khan is the most iconic Enterprise. But this one does look very tasty, the Enterprise E. Picard, he's ordered to patrol the neutral zone in case of the Romulans taking advantage of the situation. Starfleet is basically worried that Picard would be too emotionally involved with his experience with the Borg to be included in the fight. But Starfleet engages the Borg cube. They're getting their asses handed to them, and Picard and the bridge crew and the Enterprise, they're listening on subspace to the communication between the Starfleet vessels, and it's obvious from where they're sitting at that the Borg is just going to literally wipe them out, and Picard decides to go against his orders, and there's a little bit of a, he met up with Kirk in Star Trek Generations, and there's definitely a change in Picard in this movie where he's a little bit more Kirk-like in his decisions, and he decides to go and go against the orders and head back to Earth to join the fight, which they do. And when they get there, the USS Defiant is crippled, and Worf is on board there. And I should say that my knowledge of Star Trek, even though I'm a lifelong fan, there's a bit of a dead space in my knowledge when it comes to Deep Space Nine. It's the only series I didn't properly get into, so I'm not exactly sure where the movies sit at in the timeline with Deep Space Nine, but the Defiant was the big part of the DS9 series, and Worf's on there. The ship's crippled, and he's about to command the helm officer to, ramming speed. He's going to do his best to take out the Borg cube with the Defiant, but the Enterprise comes in, intervenes, saves them, beams them on board, and Picard takes over the fleet, and he gives them orders to shoot at a certain point at the Borg cube. So he should have been there at the very beginning. Why the heck was he put on the sidelines? If he had had this knowledge, if Starfleet had known he had this knowledge, no brainer. But the Enterprise, along with the surviving ships in the fleet, fire at this point in the vessel and do destroy it. But while it's exploding, a sphere ship comes out of the cube and starts to open a rip in time and space, and Picard orders the Enterprise to follow. And as they're following the Borg sphere, the scans from Earth show that the entire population of the planet is all Borg. So obviously the Borg have travelled back in time and assimilated Earth in the past. So the Enterprise, because it's in the wake of this thing, this sphere, it's protected from the changes in the timeline, so they follow it through, go back, and they figure out that the Borg sphere landed on the day that the humanity's first encounter with alien life happens. The first warp test, the first time they meet the Vulcans, and that's what the Borg did in the past. They stopped First Contact from happening. So there's your name for the movie, Star Trek First Contact. They meet Zefram Cochrane, who designed and built the first warp engine, and he is not what the crew of the Enterprise was expecting at all. The ship that he had was the warp ship was called the Phoenix, and everybody on board the Enterprise has grown up hearing the stories of Zefram Cochrane and the great man and hero that he was, and they're expecting to meet this superhero type of character, but they meet him, he's a raging alcoholic. When they get to the past, the Borg sphere, they take it out in short order. You think, oh god, this was easy, but they've heavily damaged the Phoenix, so they, as far as Picard and the crew is concerned, the threat of the Borg has been wiped out here, and all we need to do now is help Zefram Cochrane actually achieve the warp test at a certain time, so that this passing alien ship, the Vulcans, see that Earth has made the leap to warp technology, and that's the big thing. Whenever first contact situation comes, a civilization gets to that point, that's whenever the Federation will normally make contact with them. So they're helping them, trying to get this thing in order, but the Borg threat was not taken out. They actually managed to transport to the Enterprise, and they're taken over slowly there. So you've got a small group of people from the Enterprise down on the planet helping Cochrane get the ship ready to fly, and Picard and the rest of the crew of the Enterprise start to fight against the Borg on there, and of course the Borg Queen is involved in this as well. And there's a great little sequence in this movie, and it just came to me whenever I was talking about it there. We all know Data has been trying to be more human. And that's his whole story arc for Data. He's an android that wants to be more human. He's flipping Pinocchio. And in this movie, the Borg Queen actually tries to use Data to her advantage by offering him a real skin graft on top of his metal body. And of course, in this movie, Data is able to turn on and off the emotion chip that he got in the Star Trek Generations. And he's tied up to this chair, or this table, like an operating table, and she's grafted some human skin onto him, and he's like, he has his emotion chip turned off, and he's like, you know what, you can't screw with my head, like, my emotion chip isn't working. But the Borg Queen turns it on again, and then she leans over and literally just blows a little bit of air, goes down, puts her mouth to it, and goes blows it across the skin, and you see the goosebumps coming up on the skin, and Data's like, ooh, and the Borg Queen was like, is that good for you? Yeah, it's just, the humour in here is great in this movie. There's quite a few moments where it's understated in the humour, but it's fantastic too. And it's great to see the character of Zephyr Cochrane having to deal with his own future. He's at the beginning of this movie, when the ship is damaged, the warp ship, he's very close to giving up, but he keeps meeting all these people that are looking at him like he's a superhero, and like he's just feeling the entire weight of the future on his shoulders, and he doesn't know whether he can handle it or not. And Geordi LaForge actually at one point tells him that in the future there's a statue built of him on the site where the ship was launched off, so he's basically standing on the spot where in the future his statue's going to be. So he freaks out, and eventually they get him on board the ship, they get him launched, up they go. There's fantastic, I was reading up a little bit on it here, and they said that the visual effects for this movie were really, really rushed through. Now, where did I see that at? The visual effects were created in only a matter of months to get this movie out. Like, this was... It's no secret these days, and I have talked about it a bit in the past myself over in the vlog channel. I, from time to time, do bits and pieces of indie projects myself. I've done a couple of little indie short films, like nothing major. But right now, the movie industry has become the music industry. Like, it's just that they're constantly trying to pump out as much stuff as they can. And right now, in all honesty, hand on heart, I would have to say that I think that we're actually creating movies far quicker than we really should. Like, they're really, really cutting a lot of corners right now. And back when this movie came out in 96. I think that was, we were just on the verge of this all starting to happen. So like, they were really, really pressed to get a lot of the stuff done in this movie. But the movie doesn't suffer for it, but I was surprised to learn that, where's it at? Here it is. The effects company, Industrial Light and Magic, rushed to complete the film's special effects in less than 5 months. Traditional optical effects techniques were supplemented with computer-generated imagery. The movie looks brilliant. It does. It actually looks fantastic. There's a sequence where Worf and a couple of the other officers are fighting 3 or 4 Borg out on the deflector dish of the Enterprise. And Picard's there too. How did I forget that? Yeah, Picard, Worf, and one of the other officers is out there. And, you know, they have space boots that, and we've seen these space boots previously in one of the other Star Trek movies, The Undiscovered Country. The magnetic boots, and you know, they come out the airlock. They're actually walking on the hull of the Enterprise. It's a fantastic little sequence where the Borg are going to try to put a transmitter onto the deflector dish of the Enterprise to try and contact Borg that are alive in that century. Absolutely beautiful visual effects in this movie, and the fact that they were rushed out to get there you don't really see it on screen, but more and more these days in newer movies I'm really, really starting to see it. But of course we get the climactic battle between Picard and the Borg Queen in the engine room of the Enterprise while the warp ship is making its flight in time for the Vulcans to see that Earth has indeed had warp technology. And that's a great little ending sequence to it where Picard is making the best stand that he can, and there's all this stuff in the atmosphere and the engine room that can just dissolve skin. Just anything organic, it'll destroy it. And he's climbing up, trying to get away from the Borg Queen at the end, and then she's trying to pull him back, and then Data comes up out of the steam, and all the flesh that they have grafted onto him at this point is no longer there. It's been all melted away, and you see the robotic form underneath him, and you know, everything that he wanted to become more human is offered to him in this movie, but he makes the choice to save his friends, basically, instead of getting that flesh and be the real person that he always wanted to be. And he pulls the Borg Queen down onto the mist, and of course all her organic matter is dissolved, and there's just the robot form of her left at the end, and Picard breaks the spine of it. So, you know, that's pretty much it for Star Trek First Contact. At the end, of course, the Vulcans see that Earth has indeed made the warp barrier, and they land to make contact. The Enterprise has been hiding out of the scanning range of the Vulcans, so they don't know that they're actually there. And at the end of the movie, you see Zephyr Cochrane walking up, and the Vulcan does the Vulcan hand gesture, and he tries to do it, but he can't get the fingers to work. Like, a lot of people can't do it. I can do it with both hands. You can't see it because this is an audio podcast, but I can do the Vulcan left or right hand, which one you want, select it yourself. I will do the Vulcan sign, whichever hand. You know, that's a tough one to do for some people, but I grew up watching all this stuff, so I think that's probably one of the first things I learned as a child, bar speaking. So Picard and the crew beam back to the Enterprise and they head back to the future. Back to the future! Um, and we end off the episode with Zephyr Cochrane sitting down for a beer with the Vulcans and turning on the jukebox, and he starts to dance, and it's the two cultures meeting each other for the first time. It finishes off with a nice little bit of humour there. There's a few parts throughout the movie when you're talking humour, with Zephyr Cochrane and the bar, drunk, jukebox on. Councillor Troy is sent in to speak to him at the start. She gets absolutely hammered, trying to, he won't talk unless he has a drink with, or she has a drink with him. She ends up getting absolutely stone cold drunk at one point. So they kind of, you see what happens to her earlier in the movie, and then at the very end, you see the Vulcans sitting down in the same bar with him, Zephyr Cochrane. He's turned on the jukebox and he's dancing. So you just know where that's going to lead you. He's going to have all these Vulcans hammered within a couple of hours. That's a very, very good movie. And this little podcast review probably hasn't done much justice to it, but it is what it is, guys. It's a fantastic, fantastic movie. And definitely it's easily the best of the Next Generation casts appearances in the movies. And there's only a couple of more films in the series after this before it got kind of cancelled. But we'll get to that in the next episode. This has been a production of Coins Age Media. Thank you.